As more and more Necron tomb worlds awaken from their great sleep, the intelligent races of the Milky Way galaxy are only now realizing the empire-destroying power that was slumbering beneath their feet. Each reawakened dynasty is claiming back its territories with the savagery and speed that few armies can counter. Working independently from one another, some revived Necron tomb worlds seek not only to rebuild their empires, but release the pent-up frustration of losing their souls. No tomb world showcases this reawakened and historic bloodlust like the Novokh Dynasty. And with that said, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Novokh Dynasty. If you guys are new to the channel, we post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. What I try to do is I create a video with a lore portion, a hobby portion, and then a Q&A where I answer some of the comments that you guys left in the previous 40 Facts video. So if you guys have any questions for me, just please comment down below. But with all that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Novokh Dynasty. Before the Necron tier went through the biotransference process to become Necrons, the Novokh Dynasty was infamous for its long and elaborate blood rituals, and for the naked savagery of its army. In this ancient past, the Necron tier empire was divided up into dynasties just like it is today, except in a smaller and more localized area of the galaxy. As the empire grew, these dynasties became more and more independent as more of the Milky Way galaxy was conquered. This autonomy eroded the unity of the Necron tier, and internal wars between the different dynasties became common. This was known as the War of Secession. It was during this era of civil war that the Novokh Dynasty developed its thirst for sacrificial blood rituals. It wasn't enough for the ruling pharaohs of the dynasty to simply engage in violent battles for victory. Their dominance and power had to be placed on display by capturing rival warriors and spilling their blood on the altars of their tomb complexes. Because of this, the architecture of what would become the dynasty's tomb worlds soon began to illustrate the Novokh's fascination with bloodletting. Channels in which blood could flow from the victim's body all the way down to the tombs of the underworld decorated each building, and as the Novokh's territory grew, so did their need to capture enemies. Eventually, wars were fought for the sole purpose of sacrifice, and these rituals became an integral part of the culture of the Novokh. Seen as rites of passages and a mark of great honor, the knowledge of these acts spread throughout the other dynasties, and many Necron tier understood the bizarre role they would have to play if they were ever captured by the Novokh. You see, much like the rest of the Necron tier empire, the Novokh revered their dead, and the vast tombs that covered much of their domain were structures raised to honor these long-gone ancestors. And in the Novokh's culture, the blood flowing down to the tombs of the ancients formed a sacred connection between the living and the dead. It was through the blood of the sacrifice that messages and petitions could be sent to the deceased. Each victim was forced to hear the people's prayers to the dead, and join in on the sacred songs and processions that praised the power of the Novokh Dynasty. Once this part of the ceremony was over, the victim would be placed on an altar connected to the blood channels, and their body would be drained of blood in front of the entire city populace, who performed ritual dances and hymns. These strange and sadistic rituals continued even during the War in Heaven, where the blood of the Old Ones flowed through the Novokh's sacred cities. This would prove not just to their own race, but the entire galaxy that the power of the Novokh was unbreakable. And since that ancient time, the Novokh warriors are unrecognizable, and their blood rituals are a thing of the past. However, their legions retain their bloodthirst. Few Necron legions are as frightening to face in battle as those that come from this dynasty. It's one thing to witness flesh and blood warriors slash a path through their foes, but to see glassy-eyed androids move from methodical mechanical killing to ever more frenzied industrial slaughter is another scale of horror entirely. The Novokh offer no quarters or no mercy to their victims. Instead, they hack them apart like lunatic butchers set loose on a pen of livestock. They do not stop killing until their living metal bodies are drenched in gore and their victims are nothing more than dismembered meat. And the reason for this gruesome spectacle is that the memories of the dynasty's blood rituals still linger in the personality engrams of the Novokh Necrons. Though they can be ponderous right before a battle's commencement, once the enemy's blood starts flowing, the engrams are triggered. They provide Novokh soldiery with surges of vigor and aggression that prove nearly narcotic. Taking full advantage of this trait, the Novokh nobility field vast numbers of infantry assets headed by bands of blade-wielding Lich Guard. They are augmented, many would say recklessly, with those of their dynasties who have fallen to the Destroyer Curse. The Destroyer Curse seems to affect the warriors of the Novokh Dynasty in greater numbers. The rage, anger, and despair of their soulless existence once awakened drives them into a killing frenzy. All they wish to do is hack apart the bodies and revel in the blood spilling. Referred to as the Heralds of Oblivion, the Novokh destroyers are feared by their fellow Necrons and can slaughter entire regiments in a matter of seconds. The Novokh Dynasty has become experts at building campaigns around the actions of these destroyers. They acknowledge the pointlessness of enforcing battle plans on these twisted and enraged warriors. Such a force possesses numbers and resiliency, yet its true might is revealed once its bloodlust awakens and the butchery begins. Employing these tactics, the Novokh Pharaoh, Galmak the Moonkiller, has driven his legions relentlessly outwards from the crown world of Dol 4 in one gory conquest after another. They have crushed greenskins and human alike, and show no signs of slowing. And that's the lore to the Novokh Dynasty. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now, I did take some creative freedom towards the beginning. I did something that I recommend everybody do if you're starting a 40k army, even if it's a Space Marine chapter that's already in the Codex, if it's an Orc clan, or if it, in this case, if it's a dynasty. Make it your own. And you could do that by customizing the lore just a tiny bit. Within the Codex of the Necron Codex, they don't really specify what these blood rituals were for the actual Novokh dynasty. So what I did is I figured, okay, so if the Necrons are borrowing from the theme of like ancient Egypt and ancient Aztec in terms of like the tomb complexes and stuff like that, it's easy to connect them to the ancient Aztec Empire and these blood rituals. Because everybody knows that the Aztec Empire was well known for their human sacrifices and basically offering blood, hearts, organs, all that kind of stuff to the gods in order to gain favor. So I figured it would be really cool to connect that whole real world history to the lore of this dynasty. The tricky part was that the ancient Aztecs believed in many gods, whereas the Necrontyr did not believe in many gods. I think they believed mostly in science, and their lives were really short. So they venerated the dead, and that's how I made the connection between, like, instead of doing these blood rituals to venerate a god, they were doing these blood rituals to venerate their dead. So yeah, I took that creative freedom. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and like I said, I really recommend that you do that. If you ever want to start your own 40k army, or if you already have one, make sure that when you're creating your lore, you make it your own. Don't just you could just take whatever's in the Codex. Like if you want to play Ultramarines and just keep the Ultramarine lore, do it. But there's room for you to kind of like mess around with the lore and make it your own. Now it's time to move on to the Q&A portion of the video. So if you guys have any comments for me or any questions that you guys would like me to respond to in the next 40 Facts video, please just comment down in the comment section below. But these questions come from the 40 Facts and Lore on the creation of the Schitari. And the first question comes from Lobo. Is a Thalax more powerful than a Space Marine? Do they still produce them in 40k? I'm not really sure if they're stronger than a Space Marine. I have a feeling that for the most part, like a squad of Space Marines can definitely take them out. For all those that don't know, a Thalax is just basically a Adeptus Mechanicus android, but not really. It's mostly robot. It's like this giant towering robot with small little organic portions in the brain, and I still have to do a 40 Facts video on it. I'll probably do it sometime this week, since you brought it up, because I would like to learn more about the actual Thalax. And is it still being produced currently in the 40k or 40k timeline? I don't think so, no, because or if it is, it's very rare for a Forge World to actually have a Thalax. These kind of like things are like the Psi Titan that we talked about in a previous video. There might be some around that the Adeptus Mechanicus can use, but it's very rare for them to actually come out onto the battlefield. But yeah, good question. The next one comes from J-Day. Do the Adeptus Mechanicus have any particular Psyker units other than Navigators and Astropaths? In the tabletop, I think you use what are they called? Electro Priests or something like that. That takes the role of a Psyker. But as far as like the Adeptus Mechanicus in the lore, no, that's pretty much it. And the reason for that is like the Adeptus Mechanicus is all about science and the pursuit or the quest for knowledge. Sorry for the dogs. Quest for knowledge. So it's more likely that they don't really care for the Psyker, other than what the Imperium has already established. Sanctioned Psykers they still have on Mars and on Forge Worlds and stuff like that. Good question though. Next one comes from Anti. Can Schitari get corrupted like by the warp, or are Schitari unbending? No, they can definitely get corrupted. There's a human element to them, so that gets corrupted. Even the robotic element to the Schitari can be corrupted. That's what happened to the Men of Iron. But yeah, it's called the Dark Mechanicus. And we have a 40 Facts video on it, so if you want to learn more, check out 40 Facts and Lore on the Dark Mechanicus. I'll probably create a new video in the future, though, because that one's kind of old. Next question comes from Doomslayer. Do you think it's possible that the Schitari will use their technology to revive the Emperor, possibly returning him into a powerful cyborg-like entity that has all the power of the Emperor? Probably not, just because it seems that the direction that GW is taking is showcasing the beauty of like the human form. So putting the Emperor in a dreadnought or putting the Emperor in some type of cyborg body would not be well, he's already kind of a cyborg because he has a lot of cybernetic parts, but no, if GW brings back the Emperor, I guarantee you it's going to be like a divine looking like human form, or a god, like a chaos god, but definitely not robotic or anything like that. It kind of goes against what the Emperor was all about. Plus, if you want to get like a godly cyborg, just play, what's his name, Belisarius Call. He's pretty badass. He's just like a giant like scorpion snake thing with robes. I still need to buy that model. Next question comes from the big one. Does American Airlines still have crappy customer service in the 42nd Millennium? At this point, I just think that every single airline has crappy service. I also had some problems with United. So, yeah, I think it's just because that's everywhere, though. Customer service on all fronts, I think, is terrible just because there's a worker shortage, which makes sense. Nobody wants to work for $9 an hour. And get yelled at all day by angry customers when obviously they could be doing something else or whatever. But yeah, the 42nd Millennium does not care about customer service, though. The 42nd Millennium just cares that, you feed the ever-growing war machine that is the Imperium. Next question comes from Bull Down Aisle 13. Is it possible for a Schitari commander to become a tech adept and then eventually a tech priest? I don't think so. I think tech priests are basically like you have to be privileged in order to become a tech priest or something within the priesthood. Schitari commanders still have command protocols that they have to follow. So it wouldn't make sense for a Schitari commander to move up to that level of a tech priest, because then who's sending that information and stuff like that? Good question, though. The Schitari commander is one of those things that I think I'm going to end up having to purchase, just because the buffs that he gives to the Schitari on the tabletop is amazing. But yeah. Next question comes from Doomslayer again, but spelled differently. Could you do a video about the Adeptus Mechanicus weaponry? Yes. I definitely will soon. I think we might already have one, so you could jump on over to, or type in 40 Facts and Lore on Schitari weapons. It might already be there. But yeah. And then Frere Fohammer says, do you think a GTA-style game would be doable in the 40K universe? My screen name is pronounced Freyar Fohammer. The Sound Alchemist mispronounced it in another video. Oh, okay. Thank you. So, I hope I pronounced it right the first time around. But anyways, a GTA-style game in the 40K universe could work, especially like if it's in the Underhive, where like you're a gang member and you're just trying to like maneuver through the Underhive and go to the Spire and stuff like that. That would be kind of cool. The tricky part would be, it's not like you're gonna hijack a tank though, because there are no tanks in the Underhive. The most you can do is like maybe steal some of the building equipment that like the Gene Stealer cult product line has, like those weird like 4-wheelers and stuff like that. You could probably steal that kind of stuff, because that's the whole point of GTA, right? Just stealing nice cars and flying them off stuff. It's going to be tricky in the 40K universe because you can't steal the good stuff. The good stuff is not usually just laying around. But yeah. And then this is going to be the last question. This is by Adrian Russell Ruiz. Oh, damn. You have a bunch of questions. I will get to this comment in tomorrow's video because I don't think I have enough time, and I don't. Yeah, it's almost time for me to leave. So we will talk tomorrow. Comment down in the comment section below if you guys want me to answer more questions for you. I really appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, like I said, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. This is Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Oh, if you could put my freedom first,